Welcome to Late Night Journeys, a place where you can rest your mind, slow your breathing, and drift peacefully into sleep. Each night we travel somewhere new, to quiet corners of the world and the imagination, places where time moves a little slower and where peace is never far away. Tonight, our journey takes us high above the clouds, to the edge of the known world, where jagged peaks reach into the sky and the air is crisp with the touch of snow and stone. Here, a young mountaineer is making his way up the tallest mountain in the land. He has spent the day climbing, step by steady step, through whispering winds and endless ridges of rock. As the sun begins to fade, he searches for a small cave where he can rest for the night. There, he will build a fire, watch the last light touch the peaks, and prepare for tomorrow's ascent to the summit. It is a quiet story, one of solitude, reflection, and the calm beauty of nature at its most vast. But before we begin, let's take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable position, maybe lying down or sitting somewhere warm. If you'd like, dim the lights or close your eyes. Allow yourself these next few minutes to breathe, to unwind, and to let go of the day that's behind you. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, and now slowly release it through your mouth. Again, in and out. Feel your shoulders relax. Feel the tension leave your face and your jaw. Your hands can rest by your side. Your breath becomes slower, deeper, natural. There's nothing you need to do right now. No tasks, no lists, no expectations. Just this moment and the sound of my voice. As you breathe, imagine the weight of the day slowly melting away. Like snow dissolving in sunlight, each breath takes you a little deeper into stillness, and soon you find yourself surrounded by calm. Tonight's story is here to help you drift gently into that space between waking and dreaming. You'll hear the quiet crunch of snow beneath boots, the whisper of the wind curling through mountain passes, the soft flicker of a fire echoing against stone walls. All of it designed to help you slow down, to rest, and to feel that deep grounding peace that comes from being still. So, if your mind wanders, that's okay. If you find yourself falling asleep before the story ends, that's okay too. These journeys are meant to carry you there. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you for being here, for spending your evening with late-night journeys. If you enjoy these peaceful stories, it helps more than you know to leave a like and subscribe. It lets others find their way here to this quiet space we're building together. Now, take one last deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let the music carry you. Let the world fade away for a little while, and prepare yourself for tonight's journey. The young mountaineer moves carefully along a narrow mountain path, his breath rising in pale clouds that vanish into the cold air. Each step is measured, deliberate, a rhythm he's grown used to after so many days on the trail. He's been climbing for what feels like weeks, though in truth it has only been a handful of days. Days filled with the same steady pattern. Climb, rest, climb again. Every few thousand meters he stopped to let his body adjust to the thinning air, to the way each breath takes a little more effort than the one before. Now, as the sun begins to dip below the far horizon, he presses onward. The slope grows steeper here, the path narrowing to a single line that hugs the mountain's face. The snow crunches softly beneath his boots, the sound gentle and familiar. The air is thin and pure, carrying the scent of rock, frost, and distant pine carried up from the valleys below. He pauses for a moment, steadying himself on his walking stick. The silence of the mountain surrounds him. There are no voices here, no signs of the world he left behind. Only the faint whisper of wind and the low creak of his pack shifting against his shoulders. He turns his head, looking back at where he's come from. Far below, the land stretches endlessly, ridges upon ridges, fading into mist. The last light of the sun scatters across the peaks, painting them in hues of amber and violet. The sky, once bright and blue, now deepens into a soft twilight, streaked with long ribbons of pink. Clouds gather in the valley below, flowing like rivers through the mountains, their slow drift making the world look alive and breathing. The mountaineer takes in the sight with quiet wonder. He feels small here, and yet deeply at peace. There is something sacred about this high, lonely place. Every sound, every movement, every breath feels magnified. Even the simple act of breathing becomes a kind of meditation. Slow, steady, deliberate. He closes his eyes for a moment, drawing in the cold air through his nose. It bites at first, sharp and clean, but it fills him with a strange kind of energy, a reminder that he's alive, that he's part of something vast and ancient. He can feel the day's journey in his muscles, in the ache of his legs, and the gentle pulse of his heartbeat against his chest. It's a comforting kind of weariness, the kind that comes from effort well spent. When he opens his eyes again, the first stars have begun to appear. They flicker faintly above the horizon, scattered like distant embers. He watches them for a moment, their light dancing just above the jagged line of peaks ahead. It feels as though the mountain is carrying him closer to the heavens. Step by step, he adjusts the strap of his pack and continues forward. His boots meet stone again. The crunch of snow gives way to the scrape of rock. Each sound echoes faintly, bouncing off unseen cliffs. The wind shifts direction, cool and steady, brushing against his face and rustling the loose strands of hair beneath his hood. He smiles quietly to himself. In this solitude, even the wind feels like company. The path curves sharply, leading him along the mountain's shoulder. Here the world opens wide again, and he can see far into the distance. Vast valleys filled with fog, dark forests that look like oceans of ink, and beyond them, the faint shimmer of rivers catching the last traces of light. It's a view few have ever seen, and he takes a moment to simply stand there, breathing it in. A soft sense of gratitude washes over him for the stillness, for the beauty, for the chance to see the world from this quiet place above the clouds. He whispers to himself, just a few words carried away by the wind, something between a prayer and a thank you. Then slowly he begins to walk again. Night is coming. The air grows colder with each passing minute, and the colors of the sky fade from violet to deep blue. The stars brighten above, countless and clear. He knows that soon he'll need to stop for the evening to rest, to find warmth, but for now, he lets the silence guide him. One foot in front of the other. A steady rhythm, the mountain towering above, the world stretching below, and the soft sound of the wind carrying him onward. As the mountaineer climbs higher, he lifts his gaze toward the summit. Far above him, the mountain peak cuts sharply into the fading sky, a jagged crown of rock and ice, glowing faintly under the last traces of twilight. Even from here, it looks impossibly distant, almost unreal. And yet, for the first time, it feels within reach. He pauses for a moment, resting the weight of his pack against his back. His breath escapes in slow, misty clouds that drift upward before dissolving into the thin air. The wind brushes past his face, cool and dry, carrying the scent of snow and stone. He watches the peak for a long while, his thoughts quiet but full. Tomorrow will be the day. His final ascent, the last stretch of his long journey through valleys and ridgelines, forests and rivers, storms and sunlight. One more night of rest, and then the climb to the top of the tallest mountain in the land. The thought fills him with a strange mix of feelings, part nervousness, part excitement, and something deeper, almost sacred. For years, he had looked at this mountain from afar, watching its peak disappear into clouds and snow. It had always seemed unreachable, something for the stories told by travelers and elders around warm fires. But now, here he is, one night away. He thinks of his village far below, of the quiet rooftops nestled in the valley, the winding stream that runs through it, and the familiar faces that will one day ask him what it felt like to stand above the world. Few from his home have ever tried to reach the summit. Some turned back, others never returned. It is said that the mountain guards its peak closely, allowing only a rare few to reach its crown. But he has come this far, and as he looks up now, he feels a quiet confidence, not of arrogance, but of peace. A sense that he has already conquered much of what the mountain had to offer. Whatever tomorrow brings, he will face it with calm. He closes his eyes and takes a long, deep breath. The air is thin but sharp, filling him with focus and life. His body feels heavy with fatigue, yet strong in its persistence, the way only days of effort and discipline can make it feel. When he opens his eyes again, the peak still stands there, untouched and eternal, framed by a sky deepening into night. A few stars shimmer above its crest, their light reflecting off the icy slopes. They seem to hang just over the summit, as if waiting for him. He smiles faintly, a small spark of warmth in the cold air. For a moment, it feels as though the mountain itself is watching him, silent, patient, and proud. He adjusts the strap of his pack and takes another step forward. The trail here is faint, barely visible beneath the powder that drifts and shifts in the wind. Each footprint disappears behind him almost as soon as it's made, but he knows the way. He trusts the rhythm of his steps, the quiet guidance of the slope beneath him. The last light fades completely now. The world becomes shades of silver and blue, the color of moonlight over snow. The air grows colder, thinner. Every sound feels amplified, the steady beat of his heart, the soft whisper of his breath, the wind's quiet song weaving between the peaks. As he walks, he lets his thoughts fade into the stillness. There's nothing left to plan, nothing left to prove. Only the path before him, the mountain above, and and the promise of a new day waiting beyond the dawn. He continues along the barely visible trail, each step carrying him deeper into the heart of the mountain, guided by instinct and quiet determination. The night has been here for some time now, and as the hours stretch deeper into darkness, the mountain grows colder, colder than before. The air bites at the young mountaineer's face, the chill working its way through even the thickest layers of his coat. Each breath leaves his mouth in a ghostly cloud, drifting upward and vanishing into the still air. The warmth from the day is long gone. Even the snow beneath his boots feels different now, harder, almost glassy, a frozen crust that crunches softly with each step. The world around him is silver and blue, bathed in pale moonlight that spills quietly across the slopes. The peaks above are black silhouettes against the vast, star-filled sky. He knows he's high now, higher than he's ever been. The silence here is enormous, as if sound itself struggles to exist in this thin, frozen air. Only the soft rhythm of his boots and the faint whisper of wind keep him company. He pulls his scarf tighter and reaches into his pack. From within, he draws out his lantern, a small brass one polished from use. The metal is cold to the touch. He shields it from the wind, strikes the flint, and after a few quick sparks, the flame catches. The golden glow cuts through the dark like a promise. It sways gently as he walks, casting long, trembling shadows over the snow. The color feels almost foreign out here, a drop of warmth in a sea of blue frost. He keeps it close, careful not to let the wind snuff it out. The mountaineer knows what lies ahead. Somewhere near this part of the mountain, though none could say exactly where, there is said to be a cave, a small hollow carved into the stone, hidden from the wind, where many before him have stopped to spend their final night before the summit. He has heard the stories since he was a boy, tales of the cave's warmth, of travelers who found shelter there when the mountain's breath grew too cruel to bear. And now, with the cold deepening by the minute, he searches for that same shelter. His lantern light wavers. The flame bows under the invisible weight of the wind. He holds it close, shielding it with one hand as he continues along the narrow trail. The cold has teeth now, sharp, biting, alive. It stings his fingers, his nose, his cheeks. Even his breath feels thin and metallic. Yet still, he climbs. The slope rises steadily, disappearing into the dark. And then, as if the mountain senses his fatigue, the wind begins to ease. The air stills. The silence returns. And in that quiet, something changes above him. At first, it's only a shimmer. Faint, greenish light rippling across the stars. He squints up, unsure if his eyes are playing tricks in the cold. But then the shimmer deepens. It swells, and the sky begins to move. Colors unfurl slowly across the heavens. Ribbons of green and violet bending and twisting in slow, graceful arcs. The air takes on a faint glow, so subtle and even it seems to breathe with the earth itself. The mountaineer stops in his tracks. Before him, the night sky has come alive. The northern lights, soft, living curtains of light, ripple and dance above the mountain peaks. They drift and fold like waves of silk carried by unseen wind, glowing brighter with each passing second. The snow beneath his feet reflects them perfectly, turning the mountain into a mirror, a world of color, both above and below. He lifts his lantern, though its flame feels small compared to this spectacle. The light of the aurora paints the rocks in shades of emerald and rose, blue and pale gold. The world is glowing. Every edge, every ridge of ice and stone gleams like crystal. He stands there for a long time, motionless. The cold no longer matters. The ache in his legs fades away. Even his breath seems to pause, suspended in awe. The colors move like living things, slow and elegant, each motion carrying a rhythm, a pulse. Sometimes they shimmer faintly. Other times they blaze bright enough to cast shadows across the snow. They stretch from one horizon to the other, weaving together like threads of light, stitched into the fabric of the night. For a moment he feels so small, impossibly small, and yet connected to everything around him. The earth, the air, the stars, all of it feels like one vast heartbeat. He tilts his head back and whispers softly, his voice barely audible above the hush of the wind. A thank you to the mountain, to the world, to whatever force allowed him to stand here and see this. As he stands there, he remembers the tales his elders used to tell, that the northern lights were the souls of the brave, lighting the path for those still climbing. Looking at them now, he can almost believe it. He imagines the travelers who came before him, their fires flickering in the distance, their hearts full of the same wonder he feels now. Time drifts away. The spell of the sky begins to fade, and with it, he remembers his purpose. He lowers his gaze back to the slope ahead. The wind has shifted again, warmer now, coming from somewhere near the ridge above. He follows it, trusting the instinct that's guided him all along. After a few minutes, he spots something, a darker patch against the pale snow, where the mountain curves inward. He raises his lantern, and the golden light spills across rough stone. There it is, a hollow, low and wide, carved by centuries of wind. The entrance to a cave, the place he's been searching for. He quickens his pace, snow crunching briskly beneath his boots. As he nears the mouth of the cave, the air changes again, still cold, but no longer biting. He can feel the mountain shielding him, the wind dying to a whisper. He kneels, steadying himself, and climbs through the narrow opening. Inside it's dark, quiet and still. The walls smooth and cool beneath his gloved hand. The lantern casts its glow along the curved stone, illuminating frost that glimmers like 1,000 tiny stars. He exhales slowly, the sound echoing softly in the hollow space. Finally, shelter. The mountaineer sets the lantern on a rock and removes his pack. He stretches his sore shoulders, kneels, and begins to unpack his gear. Calm, practiced motions that fill the still air with faint rustles and echoes. He smiles softly to himself and whispers once more into the quiet. Tomorrow, the young mountaineer kneels beside a small pile of kindling. With practiced care, he strikes his flint and coaxes a flame to life. It catches quickly, crackling softly as it spreads through the dry wood. The warmth grows. It fills the hollow space, flickering gold across the smooth, curved walls. For the first time in days, he feels the ache in his fingers ease. The stiffness in his body begin to melt away. He holds his hands out toward the fire, palms open, letting the heat soak in. He leans back against the stone and lets out a long breath. It's the sound of release. From the mouth of the cave, he can see the world stretched out below him. The valley lies hidden beneath a blanket of clouds, silver under the moonlight. In the distance, faint sparks of light shimmer. Villages, perhaps, or campfires of travelers resting like he is now. Above them, the last traces of the northern lights linger, faint ribbons of color fading slowly into the night. The mountain is utterly still. It feels as though the entire world has stopped to rest alongside him. He thinks about the long days behind him, the climbs, the storms, the moments of doubt and quiet joy. He knows that when he stands atop the peak tomorrow, he will look back on these quiet nights and remember how they shaped him. The fire flickers lower now, dimming to soft embers. He lies down on his bedroll, wrapping himself tightly in his blanket. Outside, the wind hums a low lullaby through the mountain pass. He takes one last look toward the stars and whispers to himself a promise, or perhaps a prayer. Tomorrow, I reach the top. The mountaineer closes his eyes. The world fades into quiet. Just the steady breath of a dreamer resting beneath the highest sky in the land.